The game is not red versus blue. It's the state versus you. Bread and Circus. Brandon Gentile here. This is an incredibly important article because it really outlines in just a few minutes the matrix that we are all living in, that we've been told for decades, your parents have been told, your grandparents were told, and it was passed down to you, the paradigm to think you need to fight with the other side, you need to fight with your neighbor, you need to fight with other people, and dividing and conquering of the citizenry so the state can benefit. This is an enlightening article, and this is one that I believe in my heart of hearts needs to be shared far and wide to understand that there's much more of us than there are them, and that we need to stick together. We need to unite in order to defeat the people, whether they intend to be good or not. The problem with power is it attracts people who do bad things, as they say. Again, absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's the problem. And our founding fathers in America knew that. That's why they limited government. That's why we've had this cycle repeat for thousands of years. It was finally broken in America, and now Bitcoin gives us the ultimate evolution of that, of decentralization and taking the power away from the oligarchs, the monarchs, the state, the 1%, the unproductive class, whatever you want to call them, and gives it back to the people, finally, once and for all. But the fight is just beginning. It's CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, versus the people, versus freedom, versus Bitcoin. We just saw the new UK Prime Minister getting elected, a massive proponent. The first thing he says is CBDCs. We need to control and spy and surveil all people and control their money and be able to turn them on and off with a switch. That's complete control of your life. Everything in your life is run by money, whether you like it or not. That's why this article is incredibly important and must be shared far and wide. Trust but verify. Do you ever think that maybe there was never a raid on Mar-a-Lago, or that Hunter Biden's laptop was fake? Think about that. Maybe they just made some videos to make you think that there was something going on to distract you from the real games being played. Have you ever stopped for 3 seconds to think about all the different back channels, third parties, and games of telephone that are being played in order to get you the information that you're hearing on TV and the media? Is there a slight chance that maybe, just possibly, that information isn't coming to you correctly? Maybe just a bit? Maybe it's completely faked. How do we know? How do you know for sure? Were you there? Can you confirm? Were you at the Jan 6 riots? Were you with Hunter Biden? Were you in Ukraine? 10% for the big guy? Were you on the call with the Ukrainian Prime Minister with Donald Trump? Were you in the room there? How do you know? See, the game of telephone being played left and right, up and down, back to front. We're being told things, and we have no idea if they're even true. The jabs are incredibly effective. Are they? Did they stop transmission? That's what we were told. Do they now? I don't know. You tell me. Were you there? Were you in those meetings? Who can you trust? What's lead anyone to believe anything that comes out of the media or either party's mouth? Name me one thing. If the last 2 years were anything, they should at least show us that people in power shouldn't be trusted. Our founding fathers knew that. For hundreds of years we've known that. And yet, with unlimited information here today, we continually make the same stupid mistakes over and over again, giving up our wealth, freedom, time, energy, over and over. Bread and circus. The Roman Empire employed a tactic called bread and circus, where they would give free bread and wine to citizens and corral them like sheep into the Colosseum to watch gladiators fight it out and get drunk off their arse so that government could steal their wealth and freedoms behind their backs. Everyone was so sedated and distracted by the entertainment, like the gambling, like the legal and illegal drugs of nowadays, sports, esports of today, that they didn't even realize what the government was doing to them. They were stealing their livelihoods, coin clipping, debasing their currency, melting it down to gold and silver, and putting copper and putting fake metals in there. If you don't believe me, then Google Diocletian's Edict of Prices, which you see him down here. They were then jailed and killed. Where they jailed and killed people if they didn't charge the price the government ordered them to charge through price controls, which will come here. Price controls will come because they've tried it thousands of times. There's a great book about all the failures of price controls throughout history. And it's just the same cycle repeats over and over again. They were then ordered to work their jobs that their fathers worked because people said, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to start another business. And they said, nope, you're going to be killed if you don't get into your father's work. So they kept trying to control the people more and more and more. So people just stopped working. And the whole system, the whole society collapsed on itself. Where do you think this road ends? Where do you think the music stops and there's no chairs left? This is something that people have been warning about for 20 years, for decades. And yet Again, we look around. For some reason, we think those things cannot happen to us in modern society. Oh, it's America. Oh, it's 2022. But I ask you to look around and count all the exit ramps we have passed and all the signposts that have gone by us at 85 miles an hour already. How many more things do we need? 31 trillion in debt, 135% of debt to GDP. We literally owe 135% of our debt to GDP. That means we can't service a country as we cannot service the debt we have. Hence why we've told you forever, they're going to have financial repression. They're going to print their way out. They're going to keep inflating. There's going to be more inflation because they can't not inflate. Otherwise, the entire system collapses on itself. And if they cut too much and they raise rates way too much, you'll go into depression and the system will collapse on itself. That's why they're trying to thread the needle and they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And that's why I've been saying forever, you need to get out of the system. You need to get into Bitcoin. You need to be in the parallel system being built on the side. And it's not just Bitcoin, the token, it's Bitcoin, the monetary network that's being built, whether it's the Lightning Channel, Layer 2s, it's all of the systems being built. It's the merchants around the world, the businesses using it as an infinitely, a million X better form of PayPal, an uncensorable PayPal that's cheaper than PayPal, that's faster than PayPal, final settlement, no chargebacks, no transaction fees, no credit card fees, and on and on and on. These are what Bitcoin, their social media channel is being built on the Bitcoin rails, for crying out loud. It's the new internet. It's Web 5, as Jack Dorsey says. It's not Web 3, it's garbage crypto space. It's Web 5. It's factors, it's a standards of deviation above the current internet. Uncensorable, unconfiscatable. No one can tell you what you can or can't do or what you can or can't spend on, which is exactly what central bank digital currencies will be. Governments, these psychopaths that have told us now and shown their true colors for years now, and especially the last 2 years, telling you what you can or can't do while they fly around the world in their carbon spewing jets. They go frolic, have their dinners without mask on, telling you to lock down, bolt you in your house, throw a mask on, get jabbed 19 times while they do none of that. They work for us. Let's remember that. Declaration of Independence. At the consent, the governments are there at the consent of the governed. Period. There's no and, or, but, if. No, at the consent of the governed. The governments are there, the people, the men and women are there to serve you and I. Bitcoin was discovered for this very reason. Put the unproductive class back in the place where they belong, at the consent of the governed and serving all of us. It's time the citizenry reclaim its rightful position of leader instead of bending knee to the government. With Bitcoin, you don't need to know if the government is lying to you or the media is hiding laptops and information that might be important. Bitcoin doesn't care. It incentivizes good behavior because those things start to melt away. It incentivizes good behavior and punishes bad actors. Political fighting and class warfare is a story the higher-ups want you to focus on. They want to divide and conquer. They want you to be thinking about George Floyd. They want you to be thinking about Kyle Rittenhouse. They want to selectively show you mass shootings here, but not over there. Why is that? Going back up to the top, like I said, the most important thing is, can you confirm these things? How come we're not told about all the shootings going on all around the country? That police are involved or they aren't involved, but they're happening every single day. All the hundreds of thousands of opioid deaths, the suicides, the mental health issues, the veterans dying each day, killing themselves. How come we're not talk about that? But yet we're going to talk about a selective one case of a cop or a couple killing people that might be doing bad things, or people that go on a rampage and kill a bunch of people with a firearm. How come? How come that is? How come it's so selective? No one thinks to ask those questions. No one really, we're not going to ask those questions. We're not going to be adults and ask the hard, truthful, reality-based questions. We're just going to selectively be telling the stories we want to know, because newsflash, all the media companies are owned by only a couple people, only a couple groups of people. That's it. So they're telling you what you need to hear because that's what's good for you. You are too stupid to figure out what's going on. They're telling you that. They're going to put you in the Coliseum, tell you what you can or can't watch, how long you can or can't watch it, and you just have fun there, watch the gladiators fight it out, and then we're going to go screw you in the background. That's exactly what's happening. That's called the Matrix. You're in the Matrix. Again, they don't want you to see the real game of money destruction, because that's all this is about. Money, destroying the money. But the funny part is, when you have Bitcoin, that doesn't matter, because they can't do anything about it. They can't then go destroy everything. Only people who provide value and service and labor and entrepreneurs are the only ones that will have money, Bitcoin, at the end of the day. The grifters, the rent seekers, the people that are sucking off the system, like most of the unproductive class nowadays, they will cease to exist because they provide no value for society. Newsflash, they will have none. Or guess what? They'll be incentivized to actually figure it out and actually provide value to society instead of grifting off society and leeching off society. What a world. What a world. If that sounds too utopian, please start researching Bitcoin. I thought that same way only a few years ago, 3-4 years ago. And then I really dove into it and I studied for 10, 20 hours and I realized, oh my goodness, this is the answer to the political infighting, to the political external fighting, to the geopolitical problems. It's people protecting it's people protecting themselves through energy money. Instead of fighting over oil constantly or other natural resources, we are using energy and our time to protect and preserve the network itself. And again, we're not going to go into specifics today. But again, Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonymous creator of Bitcoin, his quote, "The root problem with conventional currency is that all trust that's required to make it work. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency, but the history of fiat currencies is full of breaches of that trust." There's many, many quotes of his in the forums from years ago, 14, 15 years ago, of why Bitcoin was discovered. As Rahm Emanuel said, government must never let a good crisis go to waste. This is only perpetrated by the broken money. They can't go on with these lies. They can't go on with this craziness if the money is sound. Red versus blue, black versus white, man versus woman, older versus younger, and on and on and on. The carousel just goes around and around. Who's sick of that carousel? Are you sick? If you are, please put a comment in here that you are sick of that. Saul Alinsky wrote about this and did, as did many other despots and tyrants, the psychological phenomenons of dividing and conquering. Fear is a tool. It's the largest tool that people have to manipulate other people. Fear is a tool and a weapon used to divide and castrate people from all coherent thinking. It engages the animal instincts and emotions inside of us instead of clear-headed thinking. As Robert Kiyosaki says, when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. That's why governments always are using chaos and emergencies and fear to strip you of your freedom and your wealth. It's very easy. Oh my goodness, need to strip you down at the airport, need to do this, need the Patriot Act. We need to, there's a virus that we've had thousands of times throughout history, but yet we need to lock down all of humanity in order to steal your wealth and steal your freedoms. I mean, keep everyone safe, which, as we know, that's not how viruses work. I mean, where is the critical thinking? And yet we all go along with it. Government knows that when emotions are fear high, that is when they can do the most damage and post the most egregious laws that squeeze more and more power from the people. Bitcoin is discovered to ensure power is put back into people's hands. The only way the unproductive class generates power or maintains power is and then strengthens it is through the breaking of the money, which has happened thousands of times throughout history. The same recipe repeats over and over as the average person misses it because they're consumed with living their everyday life. Weird. Oddly enough, they're just trying to live their life. The average citizen is the proverbial frog in the boiling pot until it's too late and they find themselves revolting against the government with pitchforks and lanterns. When all they had to do was pick their head up and think for a few moments, long before the revolution happened. They could have seen that the money was broken and it paved the way for governments to be criminals and protect themselves instead of their citizens. Bitcoin cannot be changed, confiscated, halted. It cannot be diluted, meaning that people have the ultimate freedom of commerce with who they want, when they want. There's Bitcoin and there's everything else. All the other scam coins, affinity coins, and pieces of garbage out there are all centralized. They have owners, they have marketing teams. Bitcoin is decentralized. It's code. It's free speech. It's in the internet. You can't get rid of it. It's whack-a-mole. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. Until people start realizing that, until more and more bad things unfortunately start happening, more and more people won't get on the network until then. However, you can front run that. You can front run the Fed and all of the unproductive class. You can front run all the other citizens. There's 21 million coins. There's 42 million millionaires in the world, and they have to fight over 21 million coins. The only finite asset on earth besides your time. Those are the two finite assets. And everyone in the world has to try to pile into 21 million coins. They say there's going to be less, probably 17 million, 18 million, because a bunch are lost. So everyone in the world has to pile into that in the coming years. Think about that math. Bitcoin cannot be changed, or like I said, confiscated, halted, nothing. So you can do what you want, when you want, without being told what to do. Governments cannot exploit the currency printer for their own gain, meaning the loss of freedoms are not possible behind the back of its citizenry with Bitcoin. Endless wars are a thing of the past, siphoning wealth from the citizens to the 1%, as Julian Assange warned us about. This is him in 2011. It's 30 seconds long or whatever. It's maybe a minute long max. I think it's 30 seconds. It's him going through and talking about what the Afghan war was used for, basically funneling cash from the tech sector to the public sector to the military industrial complex and paying each other off, using $7 trillion of the taxpayers' currency to fund and pay for their boondoggles, their exploits, pay themselves off. Racketeering, basically. This is what happens when you have broken money. And like I've said many times before, $100 billion we sent to Ukraine. Who voted for that? No one voted for that. I didn't vote for that. You didn't vote for that. No one voted for that. Yet we have to pay that off through our taxes and our kids and our grandkids and everyone else. But yet, how come we never know where the money goes? No one ever audits the money. It's not like any of our representatives or politicians or senators, they don't audit it. It just, sign a check. There we go. Gone. Passed a bill. It's gone. Never to be seen again. And we wonder how the 1% just keep getting greater and greater, and then the poor middle class just keep getting poorer and poorer through inflation. Because one, the rich own assets, and two, the other half of them are in this system where they're getting paid off by all the poor middle class, their taxes and inflation. That's the insanity going on right now. You cannot have that with Bitcoin. This is so frustrating. It's so frustrating and so obvious and so literally clear as day. And it's painful because my goal is to have less and less people get hurt. The faster we adopt a Bitcoin standard and have an unconfiscatable, decentralized, peer-to-peer money, separation of money and state, more and more people will get hurt. More and more people will get hurt if we continue down this fiat currency, central bank digital currency, unsound money path. What we've tried for thousands and thousands of years. This never works. It always ends in disaster, and it's currently ending in disaster. No one person can look around and be like, yeah, life's amazing. All the riots and protests going on all around the world, states all over the US, all over Europe. This is amazing. This is so wonderful. Sri Lanka collapsing, Argentina collapsing, Venezuela, countries everywhere collapsing, UK pound sterling collapsing. I mean, no one can sit here and be like, you know what, this is so amazing. Now, do we have great technologies and all kinds of advancements? Yes. However, the problem is, I would posit that life could actually be 100, 1,000 times, 10,000 times further down the road if central banks and central bank fiat currencies weren't screwing us, really namely for the last 200 to 400 years. Think about how much progress we've stopped because we have chosen to let the oligarchs break our money and steal from us. The invention, the curing of diseases, and the technological advances we don't have yet because we've let these people destroy our money. And again, you wonder why Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, these people are looked at as criminals, and you're told that by the media. Why do we think that is? Again, do we know the truth? How do we know? We don't. Just like the beginning of the article, how do you know? How do you know those things happened? How do you know the Mar-a-Lago thing happened? How do you know that Trump even had anything? Did they plant it there? How do you know that the raid even happened at all? How do we know? Do we know? Not one person reading this, watching this can tell us. Not one. As Henry Ford predicted, and again, at the end of the day, my job is to get people to think. Think. As Henry Ford said, it's the hardest thing to do, and almost no one does it. And as Bob Proctor says, most people would rather die than think. And we're not thinking about just having an image come into your head like, oh, I hear a fire truck and I see a fire truck in my head. Actually thinking. Truly thinking. That's my job at the end of the day, is to get people to think. Think differently, think clearly, question everything with boldness, as Thomas Jefferson says, even the existence of God himself. For if there is a God, surely he'd respect questioning and education over blindfolded fear. One of my favorite quotes of all time. As Henry Ford predicted 100 years ago, we need an energy money that is based on nature's law that incentivizes peace, not war. Milton Friedman also noted that we need a sly, roundabout way around the government to take back power and take back the money. They have a monopoly on violence. We've given them that monopoly. We're not going to be able to take it by violence. We need a sly, roundabout way. We now have it, and we are still incredibly early. It is Bitcoin. But we need to speed that up. The adoption needs to speed up so the most amount of people are saved and the least amount of people are hurt. The average person still does not own significant Bitcoin, let alone use it. This will change as every metric continues to grow and more bad stuff, I'll say, continues to happen. The more and more bad stuff that continues to happen, the more these metrics and fundamentals continue to grow. And you can look at some of the stuff, Glassnode, there's all kinds of sites with the metrics everywhere. It's the beauty of it. Unlike the Federal Reserve, which we can't audit any of the central banks, we can audit Bitcoin very easily, very quickly. Go on Clark Moody's dashboard. We can go find all these things very quickly, very easily. And we're gonna go to this dashboard just so I can show you guys. I want to be able to, so right here you can see you can audit This is everything you need to know about Bitcoin, basically, right here, as it stands. Updating in real time, the hash rate, when the next halving is, the market cap, the price, everything, right here. You can't do that with the Fed. I mean, think about this. Think how easy this is. Like one page of a, it's like having a tax code is one page instead of thousands of pages. And everyone's like, can we just have one page? Like, why is this so difficult? Here it is. Here's one page. One page. And you can go actually check the blocks being mined, the mempool. You can actually go check that happening on the blockchain, on the ledger itself. It's incredible what we have at our disposal through technology. And yet we are so early, so few see it yet. The freedom you gain from using the Bitcoin monetary network is like anything you'll ever experience. True freedom, power, and responsibility. As Alexander Svetski, incredible writer, writes, Bitcoin is responsibility go up technology. It incentivizes responsibility. In a world where responsibility, accountability, and merit rule is a world where the standard of living for every single person on the planet goes up exponentially and cost of living dramatically decreases. A freer world, as Budian says, will result in people being a Bitcoin world. A freer world, is, as Budian says, will result in people being able to say or do whatever they want. But even though they can, it will actually be a nicer world, and that won't take place. That's the world that Bitcoin gives you, if we let it. Let's not let people get hurt anymore. Let's take back our wealth. Let's take back our retirement. The true Social Security, Bitcoin. Outside the system. Stay strong. If you appreciate this article, please like, subscribe, please share it to people that you might think want it, or maybe they don't. If you don't like this, please just dislike. Please let us know what comments you have, what questions, what concerns, what we can do to provide you better service and better value, quite honestly. We are going to be really upping what we do here, providing more signal, more content, more value for everyone. And we appreciate your time and your energy, because your time and energy is the only finite thing we have. I shouldn't say energy is infinite. Time, however, is, some people argue it's infinite. However, the time we have on Earth is finite, and Bitcoin is the only finite asset we have. So Bitcoin is time, time is Bitcoin. Appreciate you spending that time, that finite time here with us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.